You feel it, don't you? That constant humming anxiety in the background of your life. You're doing everything you're supposed to. You have the job, the routine, the responsible life. But the feeling won't go away. It's a tension you can't quite name. It's a quiet dread that settles in during the silent moments. A persistent question mark hanging over a life that, from the outside, looks perfectly fine. You tell yourself you should be happy. You list the reasons you have to be grateful. Yet, that gnawing sensation remains, a deep and unsettling vibration telling you something is fundamentally wrong. Now, while we know that biology and life experiences play a huge role in anxiety, what if we looked at that feeling from another angle? What if it isn't just a flaw? What if it's also a message, a desperate, urgent call from the deepest part of you, warning you that the life you're so carefully living isn't the whole story? This isn't just a new age idea. It's a profound psychological perspective from one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, Carl Jung. He saw that this kind of neurosis, this unease that seems to have no clear cause, is one of the most important signals a person can receive. It's like the soul's emergency flare fired from the depths of your unconscious mind. It's a summons to wake up, to look beyond the surface of your life and to confront the parts of yourself you've left behind in the dark. Today, we're going to answer that call. We'll journey into the heart of Jung's thought to understand why your anxiety might not be your enemy, but the most loyal guide you never knew you had. Let's talk honestly about what this feeling is. This isn't the sharp, identifiable fear you get before a public speech. This is a different beast entirely. It's a chronic state of unease, a feeling of being fundamentally misaligned. It's the exhaustion that comes from upholding an image. It's the quiet panic that creeps in when you're alone and the performance finally stops. You might feel like an imposter in your own life, always waiting to be found out. You may find yourself irritable for no reason or inexplicably sad even when things are going well. You're doing everything right, yet it all feels wrong. This profound contradiction is where our investigation begins. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung had a name for the everything right part of that equation. He called it the persona. The trouble starts, Jung warned, when we mistake the ambassador for the king. It happens when we over-identify with this mask. We pour so much energy into maintaining the persona that we start to believe it's all we are. The mask fuses to the skin. The role becomes the self. We become the perfect mother who never feels resentment, or the successful entrepreneur who never feels fear. We build a life that looks good and is socially approved, a life that perfectly serves the image we want to project. And in doing so, we construct what you could call a gilded cage. It's beautiful from the outside, it earns us praise and a sense of security, but it is a cage nonetheless, and the part of you left outside, the part that isn't polished, perfect, or socially acceptable, begins to starve. The life you're living doesn't feel like it's truly yours. It belongs to the persona, and your true self, the vast, complex, and often messy totality of your being, is trapped. That gnawing anxiety you feel is the sound of your soul rattling the bars of that cage. It's the friction between the finite, carefully constructed role you're playing and the infinite, authentic self you were meant to be. The life of the persona is a life of shoulds. I should be happier. I should want this job. I shouldn't feel this way. But the soul doesn't speak in shoulds. It speaks in the raw, undeniable language of feeling. And when its existence is denied, it doesn't go silent, it screams. That scream is your anxiety. So if anxiety is a scream, who exactly is screaming? To understand this, we have to turn to one of Jung's most famous concepts, the shadow. Now, it's critical to understand that the shadow isn't purely evil or negative. That's a common misconception. It is simply the dark side, but only in the sense that it's hidden from the light of consciousness. In this deeper part of your psyche, you will certainly find things you judge in yourself: your anger, your envy, your greed, your laziness. These are the aspects that were deemed unfit for public consumption because they would have threatened your persona's social standing. But in that same darkness, you will also find your lost treasures, your repressed creativity, your buried passion, your untamed assertiveness, your raw, authentic power. Maybe to be the good, quiet child, you had to repress your spontaneity. Perhaps to be the logical, serious professional, you had to disown your intuitive, artistic nature. Maybe to be the nice, agreeable person, you had to bury your ability to say no and defend your boundaries. All of that, the gold and the mud, is in the shadow. As Jung himself put it, the shadow personifies everything that the subject refuses to acknowledge about himself. Here then is the central reframe. Your anxiety can be a signal from the shadow. It is the voice of the disowned parts of you. The more you identify with the pristine persona, the more you have to repress into the shadow. And the more you repress, the more pressure builds in the unconscious. That pressure has to go somewhere. The energy of these denied parts of yourself seeks expression. It begins to leak out. This is a powerful lens through which to view that inexplicable anxiety. It's the psyche's alarm system triggered when the internal imbalance becomes too great. It's your deep self trying to communicate with your conscious mind, begging for integration. It's telling you that the one-sided life of the persona is no longer sustainable. This is one way to understand one of Jung's most powerful statements. The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. If you don't consciously turn inward to face your shadow, its energy can erupt into your life and control you from the outside. This fate might be your anxiety. It could be a sudden bout of depression or a self-sabotaging behavior that ruins the very success your persona craves. When the shadow is ignored, it doesn't just go away. It starts running the show from behind the curtain. Your anxiety, then, is its desperate attempt to get you to finally look backstage. And before we continue on this journey of discovery, take a moment to support this channel. This work is a dialogue, and your presence is a vital part of it. Subscribe so you never miss a message that speaks to your deeper self. Understanding that anxiety can be a call from the shadow is the first step. But how does this conflict actually create such a tangible disturbance in our daily lives? Jung outlined several key mechanisms, and seeing them clearly is like being given a map to your own inner world. The first and most common mechanism is projection. This is when we unconsciously take an aspect of our own shadow and see it in someone else. It's far easier to spot a flaw in another person than to admit it in ourselves. As Jung famously said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Think about that person at work who drives you absolutely crazy. Maybe you see them as arrogant, lazy, or manipulative. That intense, gut-level emotional reaction is a neon sign pointing directly at your own shadow. That constant simmering irritation is a form of anxiety. It's your psychic energy being spent on an external battle to avoid an internal one. Perhaps their arrogance infuriates you because you've suppressed your own ambition to be the humble one. Maybe their laziness gets under your skin because you're a relentless workaholic who has disowned your own need for rest. Projection is the shadow's way of showing you its face in the mirror of other people. The second mechanism is what can be described as possession by the shadow. This happens when the persona becomes so rigid and the shadow's repressed energy so great that the shadow erupts and temporarily takes over. The nice guy who never gets angry suddenly has a terrifying road rage incident. The disciplined professional engages in a reckless, self-destructive weekend. Afterward, the person is often horrified, saying, "I don't know what came over me. That wasn't me." From a Jungian perspective, it was them. It was the part they had starved and ignored. The shadow, denied a seat at the table, ends up kicking down the door. These episodes generate immense anxiety because we feel we're losing control, not realizing that this loss of control is a direct result of being too controlling in the first place. This is why looking for the meaning of anxiety is so important. While tools like medication and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, are incredibly effective and often essential for managing debilitating symptoms, a purely symptom-focused approach might not resolve the underlying conflict that the Jungian model points to. It can be like silencing a fire alarm while the fire smolders in the basement. You get relief, but the original issue remains. Jung's approach was radical. He argued that genuine, deep healing comes not from silencing the shadow, but from listening to it. It requires turning asterisk toward asterisk the anxiety to ask what it wants. So how do we begin this descent? How do we turn and face the shadow, not with fear but with curiosity? The practical effort to bring these disowned parts of ourselves into awareness is often called shadow work. It's not about becoming a dark person, it's about becoming a whole person. Here is a practical framework inspired by Jung's ideas. Step 1. Become a detective of your projections. The gateway to the shadow is often through projection. Start noticing your strong emotional reactions to others. The next time you feel an intense wave of irritation, judgment, or even obsessive admiration for someone, pause. Write down who it is and the specific trait that's triggering you. Then ask the question Jung would have you ask: where in my own life does this trait exist, even in a small, unacknowledged way? Be brutally honest. If you judge someone for being attention-seeking, where have you repressed your own desire to be seen? This isn't about excusing others' behavior. It's about using your reaction as a mirror. Step 2. Map the borders of your persona. You can't know your shadow until you understand the mask you wear. Take some time to consciously map your persona. On a piece of paper, write down the primary roles you play in life. Next to each role, list the traits you believe you must embody to be accepted. As a manager, I must be decisive. As a friend, I must be agreeable. Now for the crucial part. For each of those musts, ask yourself, what have I had to suppress to maintain this? If you must always be strong, you have likely suppressed your softness. This map shows you the exact territory where your shadow likely lives. Step 3. Initiate a dialogue with the shadow. This may sound strange, but it's a cornerstone of Jungian-inspired practice. Give the shadow a voice. One powerful technique is shadow journaling. Set aside 15 minutes. At the top of the page, write a question like, if my anxiety had a voice, what would it say? Or, dear shadow, what do you need me to know? Then, just write. Don't censor or judge. Let whatever comes up flow onto the page. Another method is what Jung called active imagination. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and allow an image of your anxiety or shadow to form. Ask it a question: what are you here to tell me? Then, simply wait and listen for an answer in the form of images, feelings, or words. The goal is to move from being a victim of these feelings to being in a conscious relationship with them. Step 4. Cultivate compassionate acceptance. As you begin to encounter these disowned parts, your first instinct will be to judge or shame them all over again. This is where the work can fail. The key is to meet your shadow with compassion. When you discover your own hidden envy or rage, resist the urge to condemn yourself. Instead, try to approach it with curiosity. Ah, there you are. I see you. I've been rejecting you for a long time. Tell me why you're here. Shame is the fuel that keeps the shadow locked away and powerful. Compassion is the key that unlocks the cage. Step 5. Conduct small behavioral experiments. Integration isn't just an intellectual exercise, it must be embodied. Once you've identified a repressed part of yourself, experiment with giving it a small, safe expression. If you've discovered a people-pleasing persona and a boundary-setting shadow, your experiment could be to say, "Let me think about it," instead of an automatic yes. If you have a highly practical persona and a repressed creative shadow, your experiment could be to spend 20 minutes painting or writing with no goal of producing anything good. These small acts of courage prove to your psyche that it's safe to be more whole. Step 6. Seek a knowledgeable guide. Deep shadow work can be destabilizing. If your anxiety is severe or you're dealing with significant trauma, it's essential to undertake this journey with a guide. A therapist trained in Jungian or other depth psychologies can provide a safe container for this process, helping you navigate the powerful forces you encounter without becoming overwhelmed. This isn't a sign of weakness, but of profound wisdom. The goal of this work isn't to get rid of your shadow. That's impossible. The goal isn't even to eliminate anxiety forever. In the right dose, anxiety is a vital signal. The goal is to transform your relationship with it. It's to learn how to listen to its whispers so you never have to hear its screams again. When you do this work, your anxiety can shift from a nameless, terrifying dread into a diagnostic tool. It becomes a compass. When you feel that old, familiar, gnawing feeling stir, you'll no longer have to panic. Instead, you'll have the wisdom to pause and ask, what's out of alignment? Which part of me am I neglecting? What truth is my soul asking me to face right now? This is the path of what Jung called individuation. It is the lifelong process of becoming an individual, no longer divided against yourself but moving toward wholeness. It's the journey of integrating the conscious and unconscious, the persona and the shadow, into a unified, authentic self. This journey requires immense moral courage. It's far easier to stay on the surface and numb the anxiety. It takes real strength to turn inward and face the parts of yourself you've been taught to hate. But the reward for this courage is nothing less than a second life. It is the recovery of your own vitality and your own authority. It's the feeling of living a life that is not just successful, but meaningful. A life that is not just comfortable, but true. For too long, many of us have viewed anxiety as a malfunction to be cured. But the wisdom of Carl Jung offers a more empowering perspective. Your anxiety doesn't have to mean you are broken. It can be a profound summons to become whole. It can be the cry of the lost parts of yourself, calling out to be found, to be seen, to be brought home. This feeling that has haunted you is not a curse. It is a call to adventure. It's an invitation to embark on the most important journey of all, the journey back to your own soul. The life you have built may be safe, but your soul may be calling for a life that is alive. The life you perform may be comfortable, but your soul may be calling for a life that is true. The journey inward is the greatest adventure you will ever take. Don't be afraid of the call. Answer it. Share your journey in the comments. What is one thing your anxiety might be trying to tell you? Your story could be the light someone else needs to see on their own path.